Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with my special guest, Garrett Whitley. And I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, and our fine guest is at Whitville. So you can chat. You catch him on Football Spaces, on Raider Spaces, all the stuff like that. You can find him anywhere. Twitter, talking football, college football, pro football, and then also the Raiders as well. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast as well. So just give us some love, and all of a sudden, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell where you get the notification when we have a new show. Ryan is away until mid-July, so just trying to get some Raider content out there for y'all, and I know y'all starving for it. So let's start off with Whit. I call him Whit because everybody calls him Whit. Nobody calls him by his first name on Instagram. On Twitter. So the Raiders are in an interesting situation. I mean, they're in this like little half remodel situation. Like it's kind of like when you fix your car, and you got like a lot of things to fix on it, but you just do it little by little. Seems like they're doing that. So hopefully that can that kind of leads them into the right direction. As far as I know when I sent you the rundown, I didn't include this part of it, but the draft. You're a big college football guy. What do you feel about how you feel about the draft, and who are some of the shining stars you think might be players who can contribute immediately to the Raiders coming up this season?
Kind of like I like Tyree Wilson. Put on record, I wasn't. I prefer to get the D tackle at first, but I understand why we went for Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson was big on a lot of teams' boards. Some teams even had him above, like Will Anderson, and also other teams had him in top 5 on the draft board. So I think that was a good pick of us not reaching, and also getting a guy that that covers all base. Like you won't have to worry about him off field. He's a hard worker. He's been productive. So I think that was a good pick, because you can put him outside linebacker, or you can stand him up, rush him, put him in pass coverage, and also you can bounce him inside here and there as well too. The other pick is Michael Mayer. I think on a lot of teams' boards, they had us number 1 tight end. I know the Jets, when they did their behind the scenes for their draft, they had Michael Mayer as their top 3 guys to get for their first pick in the first round. So I think getting him in the second round was a steal. I know we're trying to trade up to get him in the first round, but that was another great pick. I like the Jacorian Bennett pick. I know as fans, like we're having our spaces, we wanted to get a corner earlier than what we got our first corner at. But I think Jacorian Bennett is a great player. Our defensive staff and also team in general values versatility. So you could bounce Bennett on the outside, bounce him inside the nickel. And he was kind of the guy that didn't get a whole lot of spotlight because of Deonte Banks, who went in the first round. But he had the production, and we got him in the 4th round. It was a good pick. And also the Byron Young pick as well, too, because we need more production in the middle side of the field. I mean, not in the middle side of the field, but the middle of the D-line as well, too, to help with Crosby and also Chandler Jones and Tyree Wilson as well, too.
Ooh, agree with a lot of those. I think the elephant in the room and the last draft thing I want to talk about before we go to the rundown that I sent you was Aiden O'Connell. Like, I mean, was that was just a guy who was just really just too early to what? I mean, like, it just seems like just very similar to kind of Gruden. If he likes the guy, he's not going to get off that guy. He's just going to stay on him. And as far as Josh McDaniels goes, he's going to get his guy. And He liked him. I'm very unathletic. A guy who can, they talk about his neck up component, basically saying that all these guys are smart. But there's time. I rewatched a lot of these playoff games, and some of these guys, you just got to have the ability to move. Sometimes the play that you call just might not be there, so you have to kind of improvise a little bit just to buy a little bit more time. That wasn't the strength of Aiden O'Connell's.
Yeah. When you look at Aiden O'Connell, it seems like he does everything, above average or good. There's nothing like it's a wow factor to you. When you look at his tape, and also when you look at him play, and from a first eye perspective, when you look at him as well too, I I didn't like that pick just because of we had 12 picks to work with, and then at that time I don't remember the number that we had before we traded 2 picks up to move up to get him, because I know Jake Hadener from Fresno State went to the Saints, so they probably said that let's go get our guy that we might want in the quarterback room that we kind of like before anybody else takes him. Let's just go get our guy. And at that time, I didn't necessarily like that move because, that's 2 extra players that we could have got instead of, moving up for a quarterback. I mean, I understand that Jimmy G has a history of not completing seasons, but at the same time, though, we still have to address our defensive room as well. And I just think at that time, we just didn't need to get, Aiden O'Connell. To move over 2 spots.
Yeah, interesting move there. I'm not sure Raiders should really love that one, but AFC West. I mean, everybody feels like they're in a tough division. I think the Chargers did some good things in this offseason. And they're as far as the Broncos go, they feel like it's addition by subtraction. They get Sean Payton, and they're going to be able to improve that way. And then obviously, the best quarterback in the league is in our division. Unfortunately, what are your thoughts about the AFC West?
Yeah. AFC West is a tough division. I still stand on us being the toughest division in football. I know that the NFC East had their run last year. It's the toughest division, but I think it still stands in the AFC West. You bring Sean Payton in with the trade from the Saints. The Broncos, they gave up a lot of capital to bring Sean Payton in, but it's been proven that organization and also that leadership, they're not afraid of, they're not afraid of failure, and they'll put everything on the line to get the people that they want, the personnel that they want as well too. The Chargers, they're a great team, but they've been plagued with injuries for the past few years, especially last year as well too. I think if they stay healthy, Justin Herbert, they drafted Quentin Johnson and everything like that. They had a pretty solid, draft. They kind of their draft seemed like they just went on their board, like they just stuck to their board, and so I think that you bring Quentin Johnson in because Mike Williams got hurt, and then Keenan Allen is getting older, and also he has an injury history as well too. So I think you do that for the Chargers. I think they stay healthy, and keep that defensive side, aggressive like they always been. I think they'll have a great season as well too. As far as the Chiefs are the Chiefs, are the gold standard of the league. They didn't get addition. They lost Juju, and they lost McCole Harmon, but they drafted Rashid Rice. I think it's from SMU. So, and they improved on their defense with the first pick with Felix Osama from Kansas State. So I think that they are still the gold standard, and they can make the moves that they want to. But the Chiefs, along with the moves that they have their quarterback, they have their coach, and then they have the defensive staff and everything like that. Along with those things, they build their team through the draft. You've seen it throughout the playoffs with their rookie impact and how they impacted during the playoffs. That's what you need to build a foundation, also to build a great team and a great dynasty. So I think for us, you know, we still have a lot of improvement to do, but you had to start seeing things change. If you're Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, because your job is online, So I think that we have some ways to go, but the AFC West is still the number one toughest division in the league.
So Derek Carr was the quarterback for this team for a long period of time.
Yep.
It's just like, it's like the old girlfriend who doesn't stop calling you, won't stop blowing up your phone.
Yeah.
So now all these interviews, and he's sorry, and he didn't give his best. I mean, I don't know how you gonna say you didn't give your best when your best friend was right on the squad, and Devontae
Yep.
Adams, everything like that. He wasn't invested, this and that and the other. Um, is it time? I mean, like, is it just time for him to for Ray Nation to move on from him? Number one, and then for him to kind of stop even talking about last year with the Raiders. Like, it's time to, you have the quote unquote top 10 defense that you coveted. You have the pieces in New Orleans. Just go win 13 games and go to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that Raider Nation needs to, well, it should have been got rid of over the car
Yes,
situation.
exactly.
It's kind of, when a player's been part of your organization, the highs and lows for 9 years, yes, you're going to have some feelings towards them, some entitlement, like you don't want to let them go. But, business, NFL is a business, man. It stands for not for long. So after a while, the mediocrity had to, it had to be, addressed. And I think it was best for both sides to just part ways. It's way overdue, but I think that for him, he just needs to continue to focus what's going on in New Orleans, and and stop worrying about what the Raiders did and when they did, because like the continuation of articles and him addressing it and everything like that, and throwing little jabs, just doesn't look good for him. Because it's like, for instance, Dwayne, he he cried on the podium after a loss and started calling people out. I'm saying, like, they don't give their best effort, during the games, and he sees it and stuff like that. But then you come out at the end of the season, when you join a new team, and say, "Hey, I didn't give my all." You seem like a hypocrite. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you didn't give your all, why go on the podium and cry? And so I think Dwayne, with this whole, off season drama and everything like that, of him leaving and still mentioning the Raiders, I mean, he's just an emotional guy. But it's like, he was 63 and 79 as a Raider, and no playoff win. So I think that, he just, I think Raider fans just need to get over it. And if you're a car stand and everything like that, I understand it. But it's like, at some point, it's like, are you a Raiders fan, or are you going to go over to the Saints?
Yes. I totally agree. I think it's about that time. It's about that time to just like kind of
Yeah.
just like, I was a Raider fan. We've said it on this program before. We'll be Raider fans. We were Raider fans before Derek Carr. We'll be Raider fans after Derek Carr. It was an odd situation because usually somebody who has had those kind of ups and downs in their career, they don't spend it on one team. They usually move up, and then they move back and forth with other teams. So, but yeah, it's time for everybody to move on there. Let's go back on the field to that drama, and let's go back to the Raiders and that linebacking core is. I think that the thing that I worry about the most about it is the worry about the Raiders defense is there's two guys, and one guy is obviously Max Crosby, who is just a tremendous player. We all love Max Crosby, max
Yeah.
effort guy, tremendous player. It's football though. So what I worry about with Max Crosby is like, damn, what if we have to go to battle 6, 7 games, 8 games without Max Crosby due to injury? And I think also too, because I don't think they have the depth to kind of, it's hard to replace a Max Crosby, but like you don't have the quantity of depth to help stem the tide until he got back.
Yes.
Um, and then they're putting so much stock into Divine Diablo in this whole like off season. Like, he's the guy, he's this, he's that, he's gonna wear the green dot, all those things like that. and he hasn't played us the whole season yet. So I understand player development, but shouldn't they have maybe gotten some veteran help to make sure before they went and did this whole thing with making Divine Diablo the middle linebacker for this Raider team?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we had this discussion and arguments during our Raider spaces that, we should have been more aggressive in free agency, and that's especially in that group, that linebacker group. But it kind of sucks though when you sign, Robert Spillane with the same type of money that David Long signed with Miami, and that's just to name like one person out of like a whole bunch of guys that signed this free agency or are still out there. So I think that when you look at one aspect, it's like these guys are they're signing with different squads, but at the same time, it's like those guys have to want to come to us, come to the Raiders. So I think that I think that linebacker group, man,
It's
with
tough.
Devon. Yeah, it's tough. And then
It's tough.
Devon Diablo, it's like, like they want the guy that, that past regime, drafted. They want to see that guy for him. So I think with that, it's like they're like, hey man, like we kind of need you this season based off of what we did, based off of what we picked up, and undrafted, and undrafted free agents this past season. This off season as well, excuse me, with Drake Thomas and also signing Amari Burney too in the 6th round, drafted him in the 6th round. So I think that Diablo has the best chance out of our linebacker group to break out just because his freak athletic ability, but he just has to put it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some tough division, tough some good running backs in this division. Also, you have some good tight ends in this division as well, too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens as that goes. Are the Raiders this game of chicken with Josh Jacobs? I know what they're trying to do. It seems like they either want him at his price, at their price, or no deal. They're gonna bank on the fact that he's not gonna sit out week one or sit out of the season. What are your thoughts about the Raiders and Josh Jacobs?
I think that we really need him. I mean, it showed in, the way we used them correctly last season, the outcomes that we had. When you rush them for over 20 rushing attempts, 20 plus rushing attempts, we had much success. When you didn't, you include them, you threw more, you saw what happened. So I think that he was a focal point of our offense. I mean, just based off of his rushing ability and also him being a great pass catcher as well too behind the line. So I think besides Devontae Adams, he was like our guy on offense. So I think that you have to sign him. You have to give him his money that he well deserved. I mean, he's busted his butt since coming in his rookie year. So I think that you have to reward him. And I think that somebody at some point, somebody that has a top tier running back out there that still needs to be signed, somebody has to start it. Like whether it's Saquon, Dalvin Cook still has to be signed. Like the list goes on. Somebody has to start it. And I think that we should support our guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, they didn't even this organization didn't even set themselves up, as far as I'm concerned, to be able to move on from him right now. Like, I
Yeah.
think I think the plan was to Britton Brown or Zamir White to take over for Josh Jacobs, but then that never ended up happening. So it looks, it doesn't look great as far as that goes. Off season, just as a whole, like who are some guys who you feel like are gonna who have a good chance to kind of make this squad and make some noise on give me one guy on offense, one guy on defense, either probably from the free agent class, if you will. Who really helped this team?
Offense, I'll say Curtis McLean. Was a guard that we picked up on draft free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he was projected to go like 5th round, 6th round. When you look at his tape, he has versatility for one, and he's the big body type of lineman as well too. So I think that he will make the 53-man roster, and he might even sneak in sometime, during the season, and might get some starts or might come in if somebody goes down. So I think him coming in helps our depth with our O line that we desperately need. But that would be my one guy on offense that I say that would make the team from offense. Defense, I love Drake Thomas, another undrafted free agent that we got after this draft this past season. I mean this offseason. Kids from NC State comes from good stock of good defensive players coming from that program. 6 foot 230. He's was first team All ACC in 2021. He was NC State leading tackle. He does have some experience on the outside and inside, so I see why we signed him, because he has versatility, and that's one thing that we love in our players. 2022 was before that. He's had starts since his freshman year. Like freshman year, he had like 3 starts and he appeared in like 8 games, and then from that he just progressed on to being who he was those last 2 years at NC State. So 2022, he was ranked 7 in the ACC in tackles. Played in 13 games, 50 solo tackles, 51 assists, tackles, 101 total tackles, and 7.5 sacks. So I think that, he went undrafted, but some of these undrafted guys, not even just for the Raiders, like they should have been like 5th, 6th round, 7th round. But I understand from a business standpoint how, some teams waited out and not drafted these guys so they can get them at a discount price. Yeah. But I love Drake Thomas to come in for us to make the 53-man roster, make an impact on special teams, but we might transition to him getting some reps and, for our linebacker group.
Yeah, interesting things here with the Raiders here. I'm talking with Garrett Whitley. We know him as Whitville is his Twitter handle. So definitely catch him out there in Twitter Spaces talking football, and then on Twitter talking Raiders all the time as well too. Anything else you want to add about this team before we head out?
I say the Raiders fans, man, just come with like medium expectations, low expectations. I know, every year we hype our team up, or the media hypes our team up, man. Just like sit back, be observant. I know some people may be didn't like the moves that we made, but just sit back and and see how it plays out, and just hope for the best. Like we hope that they see our expectations this year, but we need to pay Josh Jacobs. Hope our defense comes together this year. Hope Jimmy G stays healthy, and hope, Josh McDaniels makes sound decisions. That's great for our football team. Let's just have fun this season.
Yeah, no question about it. So thank you for joining us here on the Put On Raiders podcast. And we'll definitely be talking on Sundays and talking football all year round. All right, but take care, brother.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.